Dial Models Workshop.
Hi, it's Yeji.
And Clint.
Hey, it's Larry. You are entering Models Workshop After Hours, a modeling podcast where we talk about miniatures, model painting, and we cuss a lot. If you can be offended, we're probably going to offend you. Then you're going to laugh, and you're going to feel bad. And then we'll offend you again, and then you'll laugh again. You see the pattern. So kick out, sit back, grab your brush, grab your paints, and get ready to have some fun.
Yay, we made it through an intro without Clint and Yeji randomly laughing in the middle of it. Hey everyone, welcome to Models Workshop After Hours. We're doing things a little bit different. We had like a full staff and a guest. So what we did this time is we actually, because the hardest part about this is running the processes and getting everything lined up and giving people enough time to talk. So what we're doing this time around is we took one group of people and put them on another channel, and they're recording their own basically mini podcast show, and then we're over here recording this one. So, and then we'll either meld the two shows together depending on how long we talk, or we might release them, one on Monday and another one on either the next Monday or Wednesday, or whatever. All right, so this time around on this team, the good team, arguably, possibly, we have
OG team.
the OG team. We've got Yeji, Clint, and myself, and we have a special guest. And talking about OG, this is a guest that I have known since my 20s, since back like in 2001, 2002. We used to hang out at the same local gaming shop. We had the same circle of friends, Lunatic Fringe. And he ended up moving to Vegas, where he actually met Clint and Yeji and started hanging out with them. So he's the bridge between the two of us, since I've never met Yeji and Clint. But we have JT on the show, and he is actually representing the brand new Street Fighter Kickstarter that's up right now.
Correct. Hey guys. Beautiful Las Vegas. Hi Clint. Hi Yeji.
Hey you guys. All right, so what is everyone? It's been a month since I've actually been able to sit down and talk to the actual crew, because 2 weeks ago I was in Adepticon, or I was at Adepticon with Jim and a whole bunch of folks. I did some interviews while I was there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I wish I would have done more, and next year when I go up, I definitely will be doing more. I think we got the nice flow going down after that first one, and there's a lot of people there that I'd like to sit down and just talk with. And I didn't get to crash the Anonymous Tabletop live podcast, which actually kind of stung. I was in the middle of doing something, and I was like, I want to go, and I can't. So what have you guys been working on in the last month, other than sitting there and being salty as all hell, Yeji?
I actually worked up on, I finished actually a couple of models. Did some work for Lance, which is another friend of ours here in Las Vegas area. A lot of night models commissions for them.
Yes.
I actually got to finish a Constantine, though, for one of my good friends from junior high school.
That's the one with the magic that's like sweeping up, right?
Yeah, with the little skull.
Yes, that actually looks really, really, really good.
Yes.
I like that one. That one came out really smooth.
Yeah, and it was a pretty easy sculpt to put together, right? It was in the new plastic.
Yeah, it's the new plastic, so they actually learned how to, disassemble a model and make it easy to put it back together. So it went together. I think his arm was the only thing, the one that had the Skullfire stuff going on it. Mm-hmm. That's the only piece that wasn't on the actual model. Mm-hmm. So it's technically a two-piece if you don't count the base.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and it was very detailed. Nothing was really missing or anything like that.
It's not like some of their really early model or metal sculpts that sometimes you have to freaking paint the detail in because it's just not there.
Yeah.
Now is that a night model or is that another company?
It's night
models.
It is night?
Yep, it came out a couple months ago with their magic book and stuff like that.
Which JT's actually a huge Batman guy as well.
I am
getting over my absolute... honestly, I came to terms with it. When I was sitting at I was sitting at Adepticon, I was talking to Jason Turner and a couple of the other guys, and Mark, Maxie, and I came to terms why that not the faux Kickstarter that Knight is doing actually just pissed me off so bad. And it's not that I dislike it, because I ordered some of the models. I did. I ordered the Voldemort, and I really would like to get a base set, but I'm not sure. I might save up some pennies and get it. But I figured, I came to terms why them screwing it up irked me and pissed me off so badly. It's because I'm such a Harry Potter fanboy, and this is something that I wanted to succeed. And every turn, from my perspective as a consumer and a person a little bit in the know, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert when it comes to the behind-the-scenes stuff, but the stuff that I do know about, they were screwing it up. And it's just like, guys, and I think, honestly, the reason I'm so upset is because I wanted this to actually be huge. I wanted this to be an absolute blowout success. I wanted this to be the equivalent of a $3 million Kickstarter. I wanted everybody and their mom to be ordering from it, and everywhere I looked, everyone, including myself, was complaining, and it was the complaints about the same things. And they are and I think, honestly, the biggest fault that I can give tonight is the fact that they have the most horrible web presence ever. They are horrible, and if they would just talk to people, a lot of this stuff would be a little better. I mean, I get it that they're from Spain, and most of them don't speak English, or it's not their primary language, but there's a lot of people who speak both languages, especially in the U.S. You know, maybe you should hire a U.S. representative, speaks both languages, that can hop on Facebook and Twitter and actually talk about your product and get people excited behind it, and be forthcoming with the damn details.
Yeah,
you know,
I was just going to say that. I think the biggest thing, because as a complete Harry Potter fanboy, I mean, I have the Dark Mark tattooed on my arm.
Right. I was going to get the Deathly Hallows. I mean, Deathly Hallows is on my plan to get, so I totally get you.
So they, the fact that it was like, hey, Kickstarter's coming, Kickstarter, ad, promotion, Kickstarter, and then, it felt like 24 hours before they were like, just kidding, it's not going to be a Kickstarter.
No, it wasn't. It felt like 24 hours before. It launched, and that's when we learned that it wasn't a Kickstarter. But here's the thing. It wasn't a Kickstarter. We're going to do it traditional. And then they're like, oh, we're going to do it Kickstarter. And so that pissed off a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, you're going to do Kickstarter when you said you were going to do traditional, brah, rah, rah. And then they switched it back. And if they would have been simply like, hey, guys, we switched it back because our fans came to us and said they just wanted us to do it traditional, that would have killed almost every bit of the concern that people have. People in the industry don't keep secrets. You're not Games Workshop. And because they're the only ones that are large enough, maybe Privateer Press, that really need to keep their little trade secrets to them. Mm-hmm. Be forthcoming. Tell us. We're understanding. But what we don't like is when people keep bullshit secrets from us, such as why it bounced back and forth. If Warner Brothers said, hey, we don't want you to do a Kickstarter, just be like, hey, Warner Brothers said they just wanted us to do this traditional. Okay. Yeah. We're fine with that. And that's this type of stuff. And then some of the decisions on the models they picked is just like, what? And, what the hell were they thinking not putting Dumbledore in the base edition? I know he's there now, and that does help. It really does. But why was he not there to begin with? Right. Why is there only one Dementor in the Dementor kit that's $40 freaking dollars? Why is, I can look at the Troll and be like, okay, the Troll's huge and it's pretty detailed. I can get why that's 30 euros. I can look at the Voldemort and I can go, okay, I can see why that's 30 euros. I look at the Dementor and it's a great looking model. Every model with there's a couple that are just like, but for the most part, the models look amazing. And for the most part, the models are actually really cheap for what you're getting. But then you have a couple of them that are outrageously expensive for no reason.
Yes.
And it's like, the hell? I get that you're trying to price all your adventure packs the same, but one miniature that's a little bit bigger than a normal character and like 2 cards for 30 euro? No. Put 2 Dementors in there, because rarely did you ever see them solo. They're usually in tandem, 2 of them. Boom. Perfect. And that would have been, that right there to me would have felt as if it was a fair deal, getting 2 of them in an adventure pack. And it's just silly little small goofy things. And like some of their exclusives, they need to be a little more forthcoming that these are exclusive sculpts, not exclusive miniatures. Because people are like, well, hello, Neville, he's an exclusive? What the fuck? No, he's an exclusive sculpt, because that's how Knight does things. They release 7,000 exclusive sculpts because they think it's a great idea. And that's a whole different podcast in and of itself. Now, like I said, I went out of my way to pick up the Voldemort because that miniature is so damn sexy. That thing just looks badass. I was like, okay, I know there's going to be another Voldemort, but I love this sculpt. I have to have it. And also, you're in the U.S. You have U.S. distribution chains. There is zero reason why you should be shipping your Kickstarters from Spain for 25 fucking euros for a single fucking miniature.
But that's the thing. Even if you order from like a game store, you're still ordering that from Spain.
Right, but what they can do is they can box it up and crate it and ship it bulk via DHL versus having to send each individual item individually, which jacks the cost up a lot. So what happens is if it's shipped from Spain in bulk via carrier ship or whatever, it arrives at your U.S. distribution chain in a Connex, let's say. Let's say it came over by boat. Boom, you got a Connex. Well, instead of 25 euros per little itty-bitty package, it actually only costs you 3 or 4 euros per little bit of package. So yes, we'll still have to eat 10 euros worth of shipping, which is what I was expecting.
Well, yeah, what I find interesting is, you bring up the shipping thing, and we've at Jasco have dealt with some of that because we have certain rights for certain games and other ones have different ones, whatever. And what I find interesting is it doesn't seem like they are having any pallets shipped to a distributor in the U.S. to have them shipped from there, so that it's maybe it ships to Indianapolis and then everything from the U.S. gets shipped out from there.
Oh, so I'm pretty sure it's all being drop shipped from Spain.
No, I know, yeah, like it's baffling. I don't understand what their method
Knight.
is.
This is when I look at Knight, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm actually trying to be a lot more positive here recently. But this is when I look at Knight, and this is my honest opinion, not bullshit, it seems like a bunch of fanboys who got really lucky and have a couple really good sculptors in their stable that landed a few really high-profile contracts, but in all honesty, don't have a clue what the hell they're doing. So they're kind of flying by the seat of their pants on everything, and it's turning a lot of their products into massive clusterfucks. Mm-hmm. And they're going the way of the sports market, where there's exclusives, and they've really... We like exclusives. Yes, we like some exclusives. There should be a convention exclusive that tours for the entire year. There should be, maybe a mail order exclusive. There doesn't need to be a exclusive for everything. That's frustrating as all shit. Especially, okay, because here, let me, for some fucking reason, someone from Knight's actually listening. I am a completionist. I have a real bad problem when I start collecting something, I want it all. I am like that Queen song. I want it all and I want it now. You can
Sounds
look
like
at my...
someone else we know with Knight models.
Well, no, and this is the point that I'm trying to bring up. You look at my Munchkin. I own everything. I've went out of my way to order promos, out-of-print promos that I paid way too much for. Same with my Boss Monster. I have everything for Boss Monster. I'm a completionist. So when I look at a game, let's say I look at Warhammer 40K. I play Eldar. If I wanted to be a completionist for this, I could go, all right, I have this, and this. What models will be difficult for me to get? It'll be this model, and this model, and this model. And there's like 5 or 6 of them. Are they expensive? Yeah, because I own 3 of the most expensive model. But it's something where it's feasible. When I look at something at like Arcadia Quest that have like 40 fucking unique and hard to get exclusives, I have no ambition to go after that game because that is 40 fucking models that I have to go after. And honestly, I don't really feel like trying to go after them. And honestly, Night, it's the same way. I look at this Harry Potter and I really want to order it, but you have this all-in package that has these exclusive miniatures, and the only way I'm ever going to get them is if I order everything. And I'm just like, I make the decision is like, can I get everything? No. And that's honestly the answer a lot of the times at whether or not I want to go after a product. So a lot of exclusives, honestly, can kind of bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Are they nice incentives? Yes. Can they drive customers away? Yes, absolutely. Especially people like myself and others that are out there. And this is not me being down on the company. This is just me giving it real. This is Larry. This is how I am. Anyone who knows me and seen my rack of FW inks or my spreadsheets where I keep track of all my paints so I can make sure I can order everything, or all my war colors, or all the fact that I own 000 all the way up to size 4 on my Winsor Newtons, even though I only use 2 of the damn things. And it's the truth. That's how it is. And, I like it. Dress right dress. I think it's a byproduct of the military. I like everything dress right dress, everything ducks in a row. My shelving units, all the boxes and crates are all labeled. And I have a spreadsheet that says what's in every box. Actually, it was Adam Savage actually saw my shelving and how I had it organized and retweeted it. That was a high point. I was like, yay, because he is a storage. He's a advocator of like storage and being. So that was a personal win. I was like, yeah, Adam Savage likes it. But
well, going back to exclusives and JT's thing, you guys aren't doing any Kickstarter exclusives or anything on.
Hold on. How about we've mentioned it like in a half a second. Let's give JT a moment to actually introduce what he is selling in a little more detail, other than Street Fighter.
That's really all you need, though, Street Fighter.
Well, yes and no. JT, give us some details on exactly what you're like and what company you're from.
Okay.
You
mean
hi guys,
like an introduction? That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, well, okay. An intro, like talk about the company, talk about the Kickstarter. Give us the lowdown, homie.
Okay, so I'm JT, originally from Indiana area, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, all of that wonderful places, and came out to Las Vegas, and a couple years ago ended up pitching some design ideas for the Universal Fighting System card game, which, Larry, did you play that with us? With Morty and I?
I believe a little bit. Yeah. I think I borrowed decks than I did. But, I mean, it was... I think we all pretty much just kind of played everybody's game.
Exactly.
7th Sea, Warlord, it was Stoner, Morty,
Homie.
Yourself... Who?
Homie.
Yeah, Homie, Hogue,
yep.
Skeeter,
Ooh, Deadlands.
You guys had some, like super redneck names.
Corky,
yeah.
Dick Brew. How the hell, Little Joe, how the hell was I the one with, no nickname? I was just Larry.
I was just JT.
Well, that's true. That's true. But JT's technically a nickname, isn't it?
Not so much anymore.
Okay. But, yeah. Actually, everybody had a story behind their nickname, too.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting. But, yeah, we were the lunatic fringe.
Yep.
So it was like...
so I came out here and found out... I was working somewhere else that I desperately wanted out of, and a friend of mine had befriended Jason, the owner of Jasco Games, which is the company I work for now. I'm the creative director, art director, whatever you want to call it, graphic designer, all of that. And my friend called me one night, and he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, working, as always. And he was like, you should come over here and bring some ideas for UFS. And because I'd talked to Shane, who's another one of my coworkers, about, card design and stuff like that, and, where they were at in town, and did you guys need anybody? And so within about an hour, I whipped up, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 designs, like possible, design pitches for updating the cards, because Jason had bought this game from another company, from Fantasy Flight, who had bought it from Sabretooth, so it's been through the ringer, and it just needed an update. And that night, I pitched it to him, and he offered me some contract work, and I started there. And then a few months later, he hired me, and that was over 2 years ago. And I've been doing that ever since. So we did, the Buffy board game. I came on just as the Mega Man miniature game was coming into the warehouse. So for those of you who have been following Jasco games and saw that game, right when those were getting shipped out was when I came on board, as far as timeline goes.
Was it really 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Just a little over 2. I think it was 2 years and 3 months, 2 years and 4 months. And so I helped them kind of ship that out while I was doing contract work, and got brought on board full-time and was able to quit the job that I wanted out of, which was wonderful. And so a little bit about Jasco. Jason Horonsky is the owner and CEO or whatever. We're the small company. There's only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of us in the office now. I know it sounds like really tiny that we're pushing something like Street Fighter, and we have other big licenses like Mega Man and Darkstalkers and Mortal Kombat, and we're always looking to pick up licenses. The idea behind it was Jason loved UFS, absolutely loved it. Ran a game store in Lubbock, Texas for a while, and decided to buy it, and absolutely loves the late 80s, early 90s nostalgia stuff. So you'll notice a lot of our titles deal with that, and a lot of our licenses deal with that, because that's where kind of the entire company was brought up. So you'll see a lot of this stuff from us. As far as Street Fighter goes, it was actually announced by Angry Joe of the Angry Joe Show on YouTube, and Jason at PAX 3 years ago, I think it was like the first, hey, we just started working on this kind of announcement. And it's kind of gone up and down, and, finding sculptors, and then sculptors disappearing, and then, gameplay, game design, and, scrapping things and redoing them and making, really making this something good, because it's never been done before. It's, yes, it came out as HeroClix, but it hasn't been its own game before. So, Street Fighter has, I would say, the last year and a half, I feel like it's been about a year and a half when it's really just kind of blossomed into what it is now and become this major thing, and really the pieces, no pun intended, the pieces have really started just falling in place, and I feel really good about it.
I think it's actually kind of crazy how people think that all these mini companies are huge, and they're actually, most of them are, 5 to 10 people.
Yeah. I think before Dark Souls, wasn't Steamforged 3 dudes? They're small.
I actually don't even think it was that big. I think it might have only been 2 at first.
Yeah, I know that because when I saw them drop Dark Souls, I was like, how are they going to do that?
Well, I think Dark Souls, apparently they're not. There's a little bit of rumbling in the community right now of the fact that they have not shipped out any of the add-ons yet. And also, people are starting to get a little grumbly because instead of shipping everything at once, now they're telling people that they're going to break it up and ship it in multiple segments. And some people don't like that because it's also going to increase the shipping costs. Mm-hmm. So they are kind of dropping the ball. They shipped out the base game, and I see the base game in stores everywhere. And I've seen the miniatures that are in the base game. They actually look pretty fucking good. Mm-hmm. But they are starting to irk a lot of people on the fact that they have not shipped out the the add-ons yet, and once again their communication has been kind of lacking, and so it's one of those things. Communication is the key, folks.
That is, and you mentioned that, and it's funny because that's one thing that I won't say that Jasco Games is absolutely perfect at communication by any stretch of the imagination, but we do work very hard to. We post. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Jasco. We post a weekly video called The Joffice, and some of them are really, like, this week's was only a minute long because, you know, we've been working on this Kickstarter. Like, everybody, like, to give you an example of how a Kickstarter with a company like this works, it is broken into shifts. We have somebody sitting on the project for about 6 hours a day for their shift, just monitoring the comments and the messages that come in and getting them answered and making sure everything's good. And then, like, I'm at home, obviously, now, and I've been working at home for a while, and I have to sit here and pay attention to the Kickstarter so that I can update any images that need updated. I can create anything that needs to happen during the Kickstarter that we didn't think of before, like, you know, like the little avatar badges that, like, people like to change their profile picture to. I did those yesterday, you know, because we just completely spaced it. It got brought up in a meeting, you know, a couple weeks ago, and then we got wrapped up in other stuff, and Jason was like, did you do those avatars? I was like, oh man, totally forgot. And, you know, did, you know, 12, 13 of them, whatever. So, I mean, it's crazy how a lot of people think that, you know, you just press go on the Kickstarter and, you know, post a couple updates and good to go. And
well, sadly, that's how some of them do it.
I know, and we don't and we can't because all of us are all kind of like high strung to where we want to be on there and answering questions. And you know, Angry Joe is a YouTube video guy. He wants to do videos and stuff. So I think in our update section, I think there's already like 3 videos that he's done, you know, saying thank you and talking about different stuff. And he did all the video work on the actual campaign page. Like, he likes doing that stuff. And, you know, Jasco Games isn't really big on that, but just, you know, talking about communication, like, it's big to us. We're a small company. We have to be, you know, semi-transparent about stuff because we don't have the GW leeway. We don't have the privateer press leeway where, you know, you don't have to tell everybody everything.
Hold up, you're working with the Angry Joe show?
Yeah, that's who is our partner in this game.
See if he wants to come on. I'd love.
He is at PAX.
No.
He is at PAX tonight.
Well, I don't mean like right now. We're not. This isn't live. We're going to edit it.
It should be.
I would say again.
I said it should be. It would make it.
Actually, we are working on that. We are looking at. I just dropped a few $100. Upgraded my router. Upgraded my modem. Upgraded my internet speeds. And we should actually be doing a live broadcast, and we're not sure if we're going to... It's going to be a video cast.
Ooh.
So, yeah, like, we'll have our cameras active so people can actually watch Jim or myself or Yeji and Clint or anybody else actually paint while we're doing the podcast.
It means you actually have to put clothes on, Larry.
You know, you say that, and I'm sitting here wearing boxer briefs.
Which will be fine until you're like, oh, I forgot that paint over there, and then you stand up.
Then all of a sudden, it's pumpkin part 2.
Again,
Yeah, and then it'll be pumpkin all over again.
Yeah, but Angry. It took me a second to realize who you were talking about. That dude's he's a pretty big frickin' YouTuber. 2, he's funny as shit.
Yeah,
I love his show.
He's pretty cool. Yeah, I went out a couple months ago. When was that? January, February. Went out to Austin, which is where he's based out of, and spent a week with him going over design stuff and playtesting and getting to playtest some stuff that, you know, we haven't. Like, we've talked about the characters at the bottom of the campaign and stuff. You know, like who is it? Who did I get to play? I think I played Sakura. She was cool, and like, so all those characters that are down at the bottom, if you know, whoever's listening to the podcast, if you guys are on the campaign, like these characters, like there's just stacks. And if you watch Angry Joe did a video where he literally has all of the playtest decks that are created currently sitting in front of him, and it's like a castle wall.
That is so freaking awesome.
Because we're working, because balance is a huge thing, and you can't you can't balance it if you don't have everything designed.
Right, and that is something that is very important, because it's not about great looking miniatures. It's also about great looking everything else. Mm-hmm. The miniatures can be great, but if the cards that you're playing on are shit.
Real Raiders.
What's that?
Real Raiders.
Actually, from what Mr. Justin said, the Harry Potter game. It's the cards. He actually took pictures of them. The cards are god awful.
Yeah.
You better have a magnifying glass, like, to be able to read them. I honestly think they just wanted to produce the miniatures, and Warner Brothers was like, no, miniature board game. And they're like, fine. So they did, like, the minimum amount of work possible to make it a board game, and did these amazing miniatures just to sell the miniatures. Mm-hmm. That's something that I'm very, very much so suspecting, because the cards are, like, if you saw the cards, JT, from a graphic designer point of view, you'd probably be like, what the fuck is this?
They are very cringe.
Don't tell me that. That's going to make me sad.
Did you back it?
No, not yet. Maybe not.
You're going to go all in on that.
Now I have to go see if I can find these.
Hold on. No.
If JT gets the game, then I get to paint all of them, right?
This is true.
Hold on. I'm looking for them right now. It was, like their presence at Gamma. Their Gamma presence was almost ungodly. Like, they literally walked in, showed a couple things off for, like, not even half a day, turned around and left. At Gamma. At fucking Gamma. They flew one person out. Oh, here they are. There you go, JT. Check your Facebook.
Alright.
Okay, I guess they're not... Now that I take a second look, I guess they're not that bad, but they could definitely be a little better.
What are those?
And from my understanding, they're not like the size of Magic cards. They're smaller.
I mean, okay, from a design standpoint, I love the theme that they have. But why are there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Why are there 8 different fonts on something that is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches?
I don't think it's 2.5 by 3, dude. I think it's actually like 1 3/4 by like 2. I think they're actually smaller, which is because he said they were tiny. Look at the grain of the faux marble behind it.
Yeah.
He said they were really small, and yeah, like you said, he's not joking either. There is like 7 different fonts on these things, and they make no sense. Like the spell kind of makes sense. The theme, like you said, the layout does look good, but there's 17 different fonts. There's like 10 different. Even if the fonts are the same, they're like 3 different sizes. I get what they're doing with the twisting the spell around as a recharge,
like,
which is
neat.
actually kind of neat.
That's neat.
That's neat. But yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, that's
yeah. So there's the cards, but from what I've seen of yours, your cards on your game are much cleaner and a nicer design.
Thank you. I mean, font size is definitely something that we mess around with a lot. Like, that's actually one of my things for either over the weekend or next week is we were playing around with some stuff and had a couple people do some alpha testing, and like the biggest thing, they were just like, can you make the font bigger? There just seems to be enough room that you can. And I was like, yeah. So I mean, I've already done the base set of cards, and I get to go back and fix those, but you never know, because sometimes people don't want just a giant text box.
No,
on
and
things.
simpler is better. That's the thing.
That I 100% agree with.
Like, I picked up a card game. I picked up 2 card games that are very similar. One of them is Sushi Go, which I'm sure most people around here has heard of, and it was recommended to me. Me and the kids sat down with it, played it. It's amazing. It's fun and it's simple. Like, you can read the rules in 10 minutes and you know the game. And then
there is such a thing as too simple, though, because if we go back to the actual Batman game, the card itself just gives you, like, acrobat. You're like, okay, what's that? Then I have to go to a book, look up the rule, find out what that is, but okay, and I'm attacking this person. Oh, what's that rule? Okay, let's go back to the book because it only is one freaking word.
Right.
And,
right.
Malifaux had that problem with their first generation iteration of
Thank God
so
they
does
fixed that.
40K does as well.
Yes.
40K is guilty of that as well. A lot of the miniature games are very guilty of the one-word explanation because tabletop war games are not simplistic Sushi Go or War Kittens or Smash Up type games. They expect you to actually learn the rules a little bit more in depth. I mean, at least it's not what's that game Tony used to love to play? Starfleet Battles?
Yes.
Oh my god, the rule book, like the main rule book, because you had to print it off yourself, would be like in a 6-inch D-ring binder. And all the little sub-rule books that you had to print off were all in like 3-inch D-ring binders. It was the most ridiculously over-complex game I ever saw. But if you loved it, if you really liked that game, it was an amazing game.
Yeah.
But you better be ready to sit down and read
Yes.
a lot. And you have to find that happy balance. You know, if it's not about being too simple. It's about giving enough information. Like you said, if there's enough room to fit a small explanation on there, just put the damn explanation on the damn card.
Exactly.
If there isn't, because he's a leader character, okay then just put the keyword trait, and then at that point you should know them, or you can look them up. Or, worst case scenario, include a fucking cheat card in your damn game that has all the abilities.
Exactly. Or like the back of the rule book is a great place to put a cheat sheet and say, here's all the alphabetical abilities done.
Holy shit, even Sushi Go has a cheat. The 3-page rule book has a cheat sheet on the back of it to tell you what the different points mean. If Sushi Go can put one on the back of your rule book, then if you're designing games, that's just an idea. If you have keywords, put them on the back of the book as a cheat sheet.
Yep.
Hell, even 40K can do that, and they're the most pain in the ass. Well, they used to be the most pain in the ass company to get to help the consumer out, and they even put cheat sheets in their damn thing. But now, okay, looking at the miniatures, the game, it looks interesting, it looks fun, but from my perspective, it is not perfect. And Yeji and I were talking about this earlier, and one complaint that I know I have, and she also voiced it, was the scale. I don't like the fact that they're 60 to 80 millimeter miniatures, and it's not the fact that they're big that gets me, it's the fact that you kind of have shopped yourself out of the market for aftermarket stuff that already exists.
Such as?
And terrain.
Okay.
Terrain, basically just terrain. They're in that scale. It's not a normal scale. So all your tabletop wargamers who already have all this stuff in that scale, it's not usable because it's too small. And then you're looking at terrain stuff. It falls in that awkward spot of either too big or too small. And it's also, once you get to that size in terrain stuff, it's also insanely expensive.
Yeah.
And the closest you're going to come to, I think that's approximately 1/24th scale, I believe, roughly. So that was the one thing that made me go, eh. Now, is that a game over type thing? Oh no. I mean, it's one of those things to consider, like, okay, it's going to be a little more difficult to get trained for this game if you want to do your own, but at the same time, the miniatures are going to be easier to paint. Oh, okay, that brings up the second part. The fact that it's not the fact that you have pre-painted ones, it's the fact that you don't offer unpainted ones as as a miniature painter, why is there not an option for unpainted miniatures? Why? Why, JT?
So
Why?
that has been brought up a lot. It is something that is still being discussed internally. Not the models in the game are going to be pre-painted. Anybody listening, the models in the game are going to be pre-painted. Period. End of story. With cool effects and clear stuff, and Hadokens and psycho powers and stuff like that.
No, I like that. I love the clear stuff. That was pretty cool. I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of neat." I like how they mix the solid and the clear resin.
As far as doing grays, it has not been said yes or no yet. In the future, but right now with this game and this release, currently they are going to be pre-paints. So that is not to say that we might not be able, because as miniature gamers, as miniature painters, everyone on this podcast and probably listening to it is, molds are expensive. Sculpts are expensive. Masters are extremely expensive. We'll already have that. So, after this is done and completed and shipped out, there's no reason that we can't go to our manufacturer and get a quote on, well, what if we just want to do these in solid gray? Can you guys do that, and how much would that cost? So that is definitely a discussion that I am going to be having with Jason once this thing is completed.
Now, are these being done with an injection
I believe
plastic
so.
or injection vinyl?
I believe so.
Most likely, because and the downside of that is the molds are not. You can't take your injection molds and do resin pours with them, which is really kind of like. Now, I mean, it would be as simple as just don't send a batch of them to the painters. That, I think, honestly, would be sufficient for us miniature painters who would like to paint our own. It's just to be like, hey, we're going to order 10,000 sets, but hold 300 of them and don't paint them, send them just naked and raw. It doesn't have to be a different material. Right. The material should be fine. I mean, people repaint frickin' Infinity miniatures all the time. And it's probably going to be roughly the same material that I would say an Infinity miniature is made out of, or a pop vinyl.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close to either Infinity or Nintendo Amiibos.
Yeah, so and people repaint those all the time. So I'd be like, hey, maybe we should hold some back from getting painted. It'll save you guys money. I don't know how much you're paying per mini, but
me either.
Yeah, right.
I keep myself out of those discussions.
That's
right. I hear you. No, and that was probably my two complaints that I had. Yeji, what were yours?
It was the sizing. I mean, that was it. Sizing.
Oh, there's another one. There's no actual pictures of the models on. It's all
renders.
Oh,
yeah. I forgot about that.
It's all
one.
3D renders right now. So I don't even know if the pre-paints. I was like, ooh, these look good, and then I was like, wait, these are 3D renders of them. They're not the actual photos of them.
Mm-hmm. I will say the prototypes that I saw, they were not the 100% completed ones. They were the ones that we had to send to Capcom. I saw those in Austin, and they as a miniature gamer, they look good. They eyes are in the right direction. There's no weird weird limp body parts that shouldn't be. The colors are really vibrant.
He doesn't like them when they're limp.
I don't. So the picture of the Amiibo and Zangief and the Mega Man miniatures and stuff like that. That was one of the prototypes of Zangief. Came out a little bit dark, so we had them brighten him up and stuff like that. But that is the actual mini because I played with Zangief. So,
all right.
Was he
one
stiff
of my
enough
complaints
here?
is where the hell is Cammy?
Did you watch the video?
Not yet.
Okay. So, Cammy does make an appearance in the video, and
that's it.
that's what I can say about that currently.
Okay.
So there are plans on expanding into the characters that are not currently there.
Oh, yes.
That are not currently shown.
Oh, yeah. So we have the base game is the 6 characters, and then the first expansion is the boss expansion with both Bison and Akuma. And then what the boss expansion actually has in it is not only the minis and the ability to, with the rules for playing against the bosses and their boss decks, they will also have their own 40-card deck so that you can play as M. Bison, you can play as Akuma in your tournaments or your 2v2 or 3v3 or whatever. So it's not just here's your bosses, you can't actually be M. Bison, but have fun. There's going to be 2 different decks of cards in there for each of those characters. And new boards with new terrain and stuff like that.
Okay, we keep talking about it, but we haven't gotten into the depth of the game. How exactly do you play this game?
Okay, so it is at its heart a fighting game. You have your board, which I believe is 12 by 12. No, they're not that big. They can't be that big.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
They're 2-inch
7,
squares.
8, 9 by 9.
Okay, so it's like an 18 by 18 board, and you have starting spaces and you have places to put terrain, and the game at its heart is 1v1. Each character has a character card that will have some fluff info on the backside, and then on the front it has their starting movement value, their starting health, and their ultra attack, which for Street Fighter it's kind of an attack that's always available to you as long as you have enough super meter. You get super meter through different roles during the game, and obviously you're trying to defeat your opponent by knocking them out, like a fighting game. Each character also has their own unique deck of cards that makes up all the moves and combos and stuff like that. You draw 5 cards at the beginning, and then during your turn you get 2 actions. You get a free move, and then you get 2 actions. Actions can be to draw 2 more cards, make an attack, move again, do your super if you have the turbo or the turbo meter for it. And so, say I'm Ryu, he's got a movement of 3. So I start my turn. I take my 3 movement squares and decide that I'm going to attack you. There's 3 types of attacks: strikes, projectiles, and specials. Specials can kind of be any range. So 1 square away to 6 squares away, 7 squares away. Projectiles tend to be 2 to 6, 2 to 7, something like that. And then strikes are usually 1 to 3, depending, certain character, Dulcim is probably going to have some strikes that hit you at 3 and 4 because it's Dulcim and his arms stretch out. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And the way the attacks work is it's kind of a guessing game for your opponent in a way. In a way it is. So if I say I'm going to attack you, I take one of my cards from my hand and I put it face down in front of me. Well, it's the core of the game is called the Universal Tactics System. And because this is about tactics, and so if Ryu is 3 squares away from his opponent probably going to guess it's not a strike. It's probably a projectile or a special. Where that comes into play is the opponent has the ability when they are attacked or targeted, to either just try and block the attack, and they get 2 defense dice base, and then they can add to that by discarding a card from their hand that has a black die in the corner, and add that many dice to their roll, looking for shields. They can also try and counterattack. So they do that by picking a card in their hand, and at the bottom of the card it will say versus projectile, versus special, versus strike. So Ryu's 3 squares away. I would go, you know what, I bet that is a projectile. I bet you're just trying to Hadouken me, put a few points of damage on me. So I would go, I'm going to counterattack projectile. The Ryu character flips that card over. If it's projectile, then my counterattack goes off, and there's card text on there, where I can move next to you, do a couple points of damage, and throw you. If it's wrong, my counterattack gets discarded, and I just eat the attack.
Just to bring up,
kind of just sounds like the video game.
Yeah.
Just to give our listeners a heads up. If you go to the Kickstarter and simply look up Street Fighter, it pulls it right up. And if you scroll down about midway, there's an actual picture you can click, and you can download the beta rulebook right now and actually read it. So if you want even more in depth to even play around with it until you get yours, you can actually get the beta rules right now.
Yep, and near that beta rules is also like just an even less in-depth version than what I'm talking about, and definitely less than the rulebook. Where I think Joe just typed up, it's as simple as draw, move, fight, and
it's about 300 characters long of this is how you play, and it seems super simple.
And at its heart, it's like Yeji said, it's a fighting game. Like, you are trying to knock out your opponent. So what are you going to do in a fighting game? You're going to attack them, and then your opponent's going to try and block that. That's at the basest value. That's what a fighting game is. I will say the beta rulebook is very beta. It is not a finished product. I laid it out myself, and I am happy with the way it's coming along, but this is not the finished we're going to print with this copy. So please keep that in mind. Because there's some stuff in there that, to my eyes, after having stared at it for so long, I see them and I'm like, oh, I totally need to write that down so I don't forget it. But yeah, the rulebook is there. Okay,
so to go over now for the initial go for people who don't feel like going to the Kickstarter, it's $140 for the core box set. For the Street Fighter pledge, you get Ryu, Chun-Li, Ken, Zangief, Sagat, Vega, the boss expansion set, which includes Akuma and M. Bison. You get 4 different maps to fight on, which is actually really, really cool.
Which is actually more because the boss expansion has 2 more.
Oh, okay. So you get the martial arts, Guile's Air Force Field, the Kaisu Street Stage, and the Shopping District stage map. And for any person who's played the video games, like Clint said, this is just like playing the video game. It has the feel like the Shopping District. I have fought on this map multiple times playing Street Fighter.
The only thing the boards don't do that I wish they did is play the music from the stage.
Oh, that would be great if you could license that. Oh my god. You get over 428 cards. Now keep in mind there's stuff that's been unlocked that actually increases that number. Yep. You get the double-sided player boards. You get all the character cards. Now, so far, stretch goals, you've got power-up mode. Guile has been unlocked, which is really cool.
Yep.
You have Blanca, which has been unlocked, which is really cool. He's one of my favorite. You get a component upgrade. You get, and then you also have planned out to 800,000 so far, and coming up, you've got E-Honda, you've got Doll Sim coming up, you got tag team mode and 3-on-3 team swap mode. The miniatures, okay, so Zangief is one of the larger miniatures.
Yes.
So I would say like a Ryu miniature, if you're wanting a good size comparison for everyone who's wondering. If you look at an amiibo.
Yes.
They're approximately that size, maybe a little bit bigger. So that's about the scale that you're going to be looking at. The models look great. Now, if they're even remotely close to these renders that are up, then wow.
They are.
I love the incorporation.
Not me, Jasco employee JT, me JT, they are like spot on to these renders. Like, Jason and Joe have been such sticklers for... No, that's not good enough. No, that paint looks like crap. No, you need to fix this. This is not acceptable. Go back and fix it. Like, email chains. That's what we want. We want these, Joe has called them collector's miniatures because we do realize that Street Fighter is, as of last year, 30 years old. It's 30 years old. People have connections to these characters, even if they don't care about the board game and the gameplay and stuff like that. We want the models to look good so that people want the models. And even if they're not playing, put it on the shelf.
You know what's really fun? Yeah, I did read that about that. What's really funny about the entire Street Fighter is 30 years old. This game is actually Street Fighter 2 because the original Street Fighter was nothing like Street Fighter 2.
Correct.
It was actually almost like Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, the side-scrolling, Guile going through, and then I think Ryu is one of the options going through and beating up bad guys. It was that type of game, and then Street Fighter 2 came out, and it was a side-scrolling fighter And you know, honestly, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat launched that genre. I mean, that's the 2D fighting game, and it got to the point where they tried to incorporate 3D into it, and everyone was like, no, that's not what we want. I played Mortal Kombat when it was 3D, and I was like, I don't like this. This is not why I buy a Mortal Kombat game. And they switched it back to a 2D fighter, and that's what we want. We want the damn 2D fighter. And I honestly think that, now, while this game, it does incorporate 3 dimensions, and I think it needed to, I think you guys, from everything I've seen, have really honestly captured the flavor of the game. Like, if you enjoyed Street Fighter, I think this is something, like, you know, I grew up on that. I grew up popping quarters into Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Ultra and Street Fighter 2 Super and Super Turbo Ultra and Super Turbo. It was like Mortal Kombat was on Mortal Kombat 7, and we were still having Street Fighter 2 with like 7 different descriptors. I'm not. That's the sad thing is I'm not lying. That it was like Mortal Kombat just kept going up. It was like Mortal Kombat 2, 3, 4, and it was Street Fighter 2 Ultra, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 2, and it was like whole new games with all new characters and add-ons, but it was still Street Fighter 2. It took them forever to finally go like, maybe we should go to... We're running out of adjectives here, guys. Let's finally go to 3. Now, one thing that we have not mentioned yet is you have add-ons, too.
We do.
And this, I didn't realize this, and then this actually makes this almost a better deal for me, personally, even. They have currently 4 different sets of add-ons. They are $40 per add-on, but each add-on includes 4 characters. And you have Street Fighter Alpha. Now we're getting into that. Which has Karen, Sakura, Dan, and Armika. And then you have the Third Strike Street Fighter.
Which that's my
where
favorite
you have Alex. I really like Q. Q is really awesome.
Unfortunately, my favorite character isn't in the game yet, but who knows if he will be. I truly don't know, because no one else likes this character, so...
Who is it?
Urian.
Oh, God.
But you've got Alex, Ibuki, Q, and Makoto. And then you have Street Fighter 4 with Juri, Cody, Sea Viper, and Guy. And then finally Street Fighter 5 with Nash, Rashid, Nakali, and Laura. And the pictures, they don't have any of the models up, but the pictures look great. And that actually adds quite a bit to the roster of what you can play. And that's really awesome, because that just means that you're looking at expanding and making everything bigger. And honestly, I have my little nitpicks and my little gripes, but in all honesty, I have nitpicks and gripes about everything. And if the only thing I can complain about is the size and the fact that they're pre-painted, then honestly, I say that's a win for you guys, because the models look good, the price isn't bad, the game seems well thought out, simplistic, yet it has that replayability. Like, if you could pop quarters in a Street Fighter machine for hours because it was fun to you, then this should be, you and your buddies should be able to, you could do tournaments like we did back in the day with Street Fighter. You could be like, all right, we're going to hold a tournament and yada, yada, yada. You do actual brackets with this, because the gameplay is pretty damn quick, too.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that games are... Now, granted, if your opponent's really good at guessing you, it's going to take a lot longer. But I would say games are anywhere between 15, 25 minutes. I mean, once you've played, if your favorite character is Ryu and that's all you play, and your opponent always plays Chun-Li, then it's going to be even sped up even more. Tournament brackets, yeah, absolutely, because that's what we were going for. It's a fighting game. Like, we want stores to have like an actual bracket system. And that may be something that I design and lay out, we put on the website so that stores can print those out or something. That's neither here nor there. But I will honestly say that I do like the 1v1 stuff, but the multiplayer stuff is absolutely phenomenal. It is so much fun to have like the 2v2 stuff, and we're getting ready to like when I was there, they were testing the three. What's next?
3v3 and the tag team.
Yeah, the tag team and the 3v3. They were testing that stuff. So I haven't played the actual finalized version of it, but they tested that stuff with me, and I really liked it. And power-ups was really cool because there's different tokens on the board that do different things, and so it's kind of like a secondary resource management. Do I need that now, or do I wait until I'm down a few cards or my opponent's made me discard some, or when do I do this? So it adds another level of tactics to it. But yeah, it is a fun game, and the amount of characters I think are going to add a lot of replayability. 6 in the base game, 2 more in the expansion, all the ones that we're going to be unlocking with the stretch goals, all the extra ones that you'll be able to buy. And like I said, this is the universal tactics game. So at that PAX thing 3 years ago, they also announced that it could possibly connect with Street Fighter and some other licenses, or Mortal Kombat and some other licenses. So,
dude, I'd be all over that shit. I was a Mortal Kombat kid.
Well, Jasco has the Mortal Kombat license. Like that is going to be a Universal Fighting System, our card game set. So.
No, fuck that. Miniatures now. Now.
How about we get through this Street Fighter one and then we start working on Mortal Kombat?
I am disappointed. I am disappointed that you didn't do Mortal Kombat first.
I would very much like to get through one Kickstarter before we do anything else with miniatures, Larry.
Just don't take 2 damn years this time, because I really... oh boy, Mortal Kombat, that would be...
I can't imagine that Mortal Kombat would be that far out, because we've been working with Warner Brothers, before, and we've done other licenses, and obviously this game is doing well, so that's a selling point in itself.
Oh my god, could you imagine having add-on characters that you get licensed, throwing Harry Potter in on this?
Oh my god.
Oh, that would be so sweet.
A new challenger approaches. It's
right,
Voldemort.
right. Now here's the question. Now the Universal Tactics system, that is something that you guys have developed and owned, correct?
That is something that Jason and Angry Joe developed.
Okay, so now if there is a consumer out there, let's just say our buddy who owns Super Chibi wants to create a line of chibis that are compatible with your guys' stuff, could someone approach and at least spin the idea hey, I would like to include my game in the Universal Tactics system. These are the miniatures I want to develop, yada, 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 and I want to make them where... Now, is that something that other developers and other companies might have a chance?
Absolutely.
Or is it hell no? Okay. So if there is someone who wants to throw in on that...
Just as a good example, it's not miniatures, but it's almost exactly what you're talking about. Universal Fighting System teamed up with... that's the card game.
That's why I brought it up, because I know the UFS actually branched out over multiple companies, which was something that really made it really good, actually.
Yep.
I thought it was great because it's kind of a throwback to the 3.5 where you had the OGL, where anyone can make product, and we had the golden era of D&D. Because there were so many great choices, almost too many to tell you the truth.
Because we've teamed up with Level 99 Games for actually quite a few projects who do. It's essentially a tabletop 2D fighter of their own world called BattleCon. He uses it's Brad Talton, who is the owner of that company, and they use cardboard punch outs for their characters, but it's a 2D fighter, and it's a blast to play. And he's done brilliant, and he created his own world with it, called Endines or Endines. And we have characters from his world of Endings, in UFS. We did a whole set of cards for it, and then he got characters from our world, which is called Red Horizon, and put those into BattleCon and his other card game called Exceed. So yeah, if people have games or licenses or want to, I would say, because of the position that I'm in, never ever be afraid to reach out. The worst someone can say is no, because I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in had I not been able to throw something together and just go over to this guy's house and pitch him ideas. So definitely do that, people.
That's awesome. Actually, I'm going to probably go talk to Brian and be like, hey, Brian, because he's a buddy of ours who does Super Chibi and has some pretty awesome chibi designs, and I think they would be, at least two of his main characters would be pretty fun,
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a little weird, big-headed, where the hell are you from?
But yeah, definitely, for those listening, I would wait until May 6th, but but yeah, overall, I mean, like I said, the Street Fighter game, check it out. It's good. Gameplay is fun. The multiplayer is amazing. It's so good. The boss mode is so cool because you somebody at the table gets to be the boss, and they do have an overpowered character. They get to play the OP character that is designed to be OP and try and smash up to 3 other opponents. It's really fantastic. Like I said, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been having a lot of fun with designing it and laying it out, and this is something that I grew up with. Like Larry said, pumping quarters into machines and trying to find time to go down to the arcade to make sure that your score was still good, and trying to get to the top of the tower. So getting a chance to work on it has been a blast, and then the fact that it's miniatures, it's just icing on the cake, really.
So if there's a license, now this is not employee JT, this is fanboy JT. If there was a license that you guys could, it doesn't matter from where, just say it magically fell in your lap, which one would you bring into this system?
Sailor Moon.
I can't even get mad at that. That would actually be pretty fucking awesome.
And they could have some kind of transformation or something like that.
That would actually be pretty cool. Honestly, for me, and honestly, this is something that might actually happen because you're friends with a couple of the people. I would love to see the Ninja Turtles in this.
That would actually be really cool too, because that would make a lot of sense.
Ross is in charge of IDW Game. Well, no, maybe not in charge, but he's one of the bigger ups over at IDW Games. So it's might be possible. I mean, they're pumping out now. They have they just announced the Shadows of the Past, Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past expansion that's coming out in October. So, which I'm totally looking forward and dreading at the same time because it was like fucking they're killing me. Steve Jackson Games needs to stop. First they bring out Ninja Turtle Munchkin, which I'm like, fuck. And it wasn't super expensive, but I was like, all right, back this. And then immediately, as soon as it ends, they bring Dragon of the Red Inn Munchkin out. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Seriously, back to back? Stop. And they're not expensive, so they're like, okay, I'll back this one too.
That's how Kickstarter gets you.
Well, I don't do Kickstarter very often. That's the thing. Yeji's the Kickstarter.
Yeji became a super backer.
Yeah, I know I'm a bad influencer, but I'll be like, I'll talk about Kickstarters all the time, but I rarely back them because money, two, money. But these are these were $60 for the all-in on the Ninja Turtle one. So I was like, all right, I can do that. And then immediately it was like, okay, guys, for $35 you can get Munchkin Dragon of the Red Inn, which is okay. So it's its own play alone or play. It's its own entity within. It's its own. There we go. Standalone game within the Dragon of the Red Inn world. So I was like, all right, cool. I have not got that game yet, so this will be nice. And if I want to buy the rest of them, which I will, it's compatible. So I was like, all right, cool. And then they're like, and that was 20. I was like, all right. And then they're like, for 35, you also get the Munchkin expansion, Dragon of the Red Inn, which is for Munchkin. And I was like, you fuckers, you son of a fuck. And I don't know if that's Kickstarter exclusive. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to back this one too. So that one just ended. I swear tomorrow, if I wake up and Steve Jackson Games has launched another fucking Kickstarter, I'm driving up to Wisconsin and having words with them.
That company is a machine, dude. They are constantly working on like just an absurd amount of stuff all at the same time. But they have the manpower to do it.
Well, that's fine. And I don't mind it when they put out, 3 or 4 or 5 $10 blisters a year. Like they just put out the Clowns expansion. 3 months ago, they put out the Hipster expansion. That's fine. That's a nice even pace. Mm-hmm. And I don't collect other Munchkins. I collect base edition Munchkins, which I will eventually get the Munchkin Legends because it utilizes the standard Munchkin pack. So I don't worry about if they bring out an expansion to Cthulhu or any of those because that's not my niche.
Right.
And once every 3 months, $10 for Clowns or $10 for Hipsters, that's fine. Or, during the holidays, they bring out a $20 box set. But damn it, it's like every month it's like, hey, here's a $30 or $60 Kickstarter, guys. Now, Ninja Turtles, that's the exception to the outside of my niche rule because it's Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. It's almost all new Eastman art, and yeah, totally. No, I ended up talking to a guy at Adepticon who does a webcomic, and his name is D, and he actually. I was looking at his stuff, and it's Legendary Sisters of the Dogabi, I believe is what it's called. It's from.
I was going to ask if it was the Samurai Sisters.
Yes. And I looked at his stuff, and I was talking with it, and he had actually a miniature, and he had a miniature up. And it turned out Tom Mason actually did the miniature, because I was like, man, that looks familiar. Like, I think I know who sculpted that. He's like, yeah, it was Tom, because he was set up right next to Tom. I got to talk to Tom, and I don't know why I didn't pull out my recorder and do an interview with him. That dude is so freaking cool. But yeah, it's the Legendary Sisters of the Dogabi, and I was like, man, your art style, I like it because it really reminds me of an early Ninja Turtle style. It's like, where do you get your influence from? He's like, Ninja Turtles. I had that on interview during the Adepticon recap, if you haven't listened to that yet. But yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm a big, huge Eastman and Laird fan and yada, yada, yada. And it looks really cool. And the guy was super neat. And it's studiodogabi.com, and it's studiodogggebi.com. Giving him a little bit of an extra shout out just because he's doing a web comic and he does some amazing art. And this is a part-time job, and he said he wanted to do it full-time, so give him a little bit of a nice little push.
Yeah, I hope he is able to transfer over into full-time.
Yeah, I got to talk to some really cool people. I got to talk to Paul Figgins of Trenchworks. He's a cool guy.
I have to say, I had a huge...
What have we been telling you all these years?
But I know, I believed you that he was a cool guy, but I actually got to meet him in person, and we were talking about, because you don't listen to the podcast, so you didn't hear my recap, we were talking about how Midara was the first game that they ever did rapid prototypes for, and now they have like 20 different games that they've done prototypes for, and keep doing prototypes for, and man... Once again, if you need rapid prototypes for your game or miniatures, or if you're needing masters, go to Trenchworks. Seriously, folks, I've seen their models in hand. I have painted some of their models, some of their 3D prints, and they are perfect. Other people have recently picked up. They owned the $10,000 printers that could print with no lines that are visible once you put paint on them before anybody else did. They have
if you have trouble finding their contact information, get a hold of one of us. We will get you in contact.
And if you want to, it's TRENCHWORX.com. And seriously, dudes, the dude is awesome. Their sculpts, I've had one of the Midaris 3D prints forever, and they are flawless. Like, seriously, if you're looking for needing masters done for your game, or if you have a digital sculpt and you want to do resin pours, but you need masters made, their rates are actually not bad either. They're not super expensive. They're a lot cheaper than I've heard one of the prices, and I'm not going to say it because it could be wrong, but it was still in the 2 digits.
What?
For something. Yeah, I heard. Like I said, I don't quote me on this, but one of my buddies had some stuff reprinted, or had some of the stuff printed from him, and the price he told me was still in the 2 digits.
Wow.
And these are on 6-figure printers. Like, these are the Ferraris of 3D printers.
So, JT, when you need that information...
3 years ago when Midara launched, and this is when 3D prints were still in the resin infancy, they sent me a Midara 3D print, and you could see the lines when it was still raw, but once you put the one coat, a single coat of primer on it, nothing. No mold lines, nothing. It was flawless. Like, mind fucking blown. Flawless.
Yeah, they showed us a copy, the Midara guys, when we went to go play test them. They showed us a copy of one from like a regular printer and then Trenchworks prototype. And we looked at them and we were like, wait, this just looks like it was carved out of wood grain. And then the other guys was like, it looks like it was built out of Legos. Like,
yeah, and this is 3 years ago, so you can imagine that they have tuned and tweaked. I saw some of their new stuff. They're doing stuff for Reaper now. They're doing stuff for Reaper. They're doing stuff for everybody. They're doing a lot of work for Victoria Miniatures. Like, almost all of Victoria Miniatures masters are coming off of Trenchworks, and they're open. I mean, they're open for clients. That's the thing. If you have something that you want, call them, email them. They'll give you a quote. They'll be like, hey, and from everything I've heard, they're about the most affordable. They have the best equipment in the game and have some of the best prices in the game too. So, yeah, I really don't know how they did it and how they do it, because other prices that I've heard are outrageous.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they definitely can be.
Oh yeah. There's some people out there that just love to stick it to people.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, and there's a lot of people don't realize that, like, they're like, well, this miniature, how come it's taking so long for, this game? It only has 5 miniatures. Because like, there's so many steps that go involved. It's not just, I paid my sculptor and then we sent that to a factory and it's done.
Oh no, yeah.
But you would not believe the amount of people that do not understand, like, how much back and forth and stuff like that goes into a lot of it. And there's a lot of factories don't want to do, like, the small runs. I mean, so 5 years ago, I was actually talking to my best friend who I live with. It was 5 years ago that he and I and one of our other friends were designing and writing our own miniature game, which we eventually sold the world off to somebody else, and they turned it into an RPG instead. But it got to the point where, me as the art director for this, tiny startup company was just completely unable to do anything, because every company that I talked to was just like, oh, it's going to cost this much. And it was like, initial startup costs and spin fees and stuff like that of, getting into 4 digits, which for 3 guys who work jobs that barely pay our bills, we're just like, oh, can you not, like, can you put us in contact with somebody who does smaller runs? No, we can't do that. And I'm like, wow. So, like, you saying that you've heard of this company that's doing this stuff for, like, such low cost, like, that makes me happy for the industry.
Well, and okay, so getting your master mini done for that cheap, that's one thing. And like you said, that's just, okay, first off, you have to have the miniature designed. Mm-hmm. And you also, whenever someone, Alberto, our friend, he would be able to tell you that whenever you're sculpting a miniature, there's things you have to keep in mind. Like, how many pieces is the mold going to be? You know, your simple 2-piece mold, especially if you're spin casting, is you have to watch about how hair is, if there's impossible holes or loops through things, and that's something you have to keep in mind. So yeah, someone can sculpt something that's really badass, but the question of the hour is, even if it's traditionally sculpted, can you mold it?
Right.
And you have to have a sculptor who knows what they're doing. So that's the first step. The first step is just the concepts and the pictures and the designs, and then getting it done, and then having a master done. And yeah, you might only pay, and this is not the price I was told, so don't take it to heart. I'm just using it because it's an even number. Okay, let's say you pay $50 for one miniatures master mini. Is that a good price? Yes. But then you send it off to the mold manufacturer. Let's say you use RN Studio, or if you go overseas, or you use one of the other Troll Forge, or one of the other casting services out there, and they look at it and they go, we can't make a mold for this. Because mold making is not an easy process. People think, oh, it's just do this, and you're done. Sometimes you can do a 50-50 pour, and you're good. Especially if the model was designed for 50-50 pour in mind. But if it wasn't designed for that, and you have to have angles and shelves and everything else inside a mold, then that can make a mold go from taking a simple 50-50 pour mold still takes hours to make. A simple spin cast 50-50 pancake mold is $500 on average. They're not cheap.
Nope.
And this is why also, weird minis are so fucking weird.
Right. Well,
because they have a computer doing that job.
Yep.
Also, well, there's also another thing you have to look out for is that's where you also have to design. Okay, well, we need to take this arm off if you wanted to do this, because it won't mold properly, and we'll have to mold it as a separate piece. Same with this sword, same with this head, and then all of a sudden your single-piece model. That's why a lot of your single-piece models are very simplistic and very simple on the poses, is because, I mean, not knocking them, but Reaper miniatures who are typically single-piece are usually kind of two-dimensional. Are they? Yeah, they're three-dimensional technically, but they don't have a lot of forward and backward action to them. They have width, they have height, but there's not a lot of forward and back to them. And the reason is because of the mold making process and the fact that they use pancake molds. And I think they've moved away from that to the injection vinyl mold, but still it's the same concept. You can only do so much. Now they've gotten a little bit better now that they're injected versus pancake spin molds. But still, once again, they're single pieces for the most part, and at that point, there's only so much you can do. Now, after you get the pancake mold, now let's say you send it to the mold person, and they're like, we can't do this. You got to send it back to your digital sculptor to change what they pointed out, get a brand new master printed. And here's another fun little thing. When they print that master, or when they take your printed master, what they're going to do is they're also going to make a resin mold. And they're going to cast, if you're going to do a spin cast, and this is why spin casts are so much, is that they're going to take that 3D printed master, they're going to make a resin mold, and then they're going to pour somewhere along the lines of, depending on how many spaces you have, anywhere from 4 to 8 to 12 copies of your miniature that they're going to lay into your pancake mold. So then they're going to make the pancake mold out of those masters. And now before those masters go in there, they're going to go through and make sure they're as perfect as possible. Make sure there's no mold lines. And that, once again, for anybody here who's taken a lot of time to remove mold lines, some of those can be an absolute pain in the ass. Now, you can mitigate that if you go back and be like, okay, well, we can fit 6 on a single pancake mold. I'll just go ahead and have 6 of them printed off.
Right.
But then you're looking at, even at $50, that's $300 right there, plus the cost of the resin for the pancake mold. And then after you're done with that, depending on the material you're making it out of, whether it's spin cast resin, which has its own issues, or spin cast pewter, which is expensive nowadays because of the price of tin, then you have the miniature cost. And that's why people are like, well, you know, if you're getting a miniature for about $10, that honestly $10 for a standard pewter or good resin miniature, that's about right. Anything less than that, you're getting a pretty good deal. Anything more than that, you got to take it on a miniature by miniature basis.
Yeah.
You know, like I paid $90 for frickin' 4 Ninja Turtle miniatures. But they're beautiful. They really are. They're amazingly sculpted, and they're very. I've not met one person who's ordered them who said, I feel ripped off. Everyone's been like, these are so pretty. They're the
that's because everyone that spent $90 on Ninja Turtle models are Ninja Turtle fans.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also, I cannot pronounce this dude's name. Fresson Dadier, whatever. He does a lot of miniatures and busts and everything else, and he did a Ninja Turtle sculpt. And I was really surprised when I pulled them out of the package, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, holy shit, these things are even more detailed than the damn picture showed. Like, they're 32 millimeter miniatures, and there's 4 of them, and they all stack onto a diorama base, and they're detailed, like, wow, detailed. But, you know, once again, I had that shipped from France, and it only cost me like $6 shipping. But anyways. And that was 4 miniatures, not 1. But yeah, like JT was saying, there's a lot that goes into, and I skip steps. There's other stuff that goes into that.
Well, and in addition, like, not even just the, you know, point A to point B steps. It's A, point 1, point 2, before you can get to A, point 2. You know, it's all these tiny little things, and then there's a lot of times that you have to go back to step 1, all the way back.
Yeah, it isn't okay, well, we just had to go tweak. Nope, you have to start over.
Yeah.
Because this just does not work. And you're like, well, shit.
And I'm not saying that this has happened to me, but there's also a lot of times where an artist or someone else in the project timeline just decides they don't want to do it anymore, and they're done. And they drop off the face of the planet and, you know, block you or whatever, or they just don't respond, and which I think, that's crazy to me, but it happens.
Not that you're speaking from experience, right?
Not so much in the gaming world. I've had 1 or 2, you know, solo projects or stuff that I wanted to get done, and, you know, talking to artists and, you know, get payments set up, and I don't pay for things until they're done, but, you know, get all of that stuff out of the way, and then get the first set of, you know, lines or whatever, sketches, do some art direction on it, and then the person's like, oh yeah, I don't have time for this anymore. And I'm like, what? You took... Yeah,
because your actual degree is interior design, isn't it?
It is. My actual degree is interior design, and after college, I fell into graphic design work, doing stuff for Warner Brothers and Universal, Fox, and Skechers. So,
Skechers? Nice.
Yeah. That was my first job with the person that I was working for at the time. I had to come up with 2 pages of logos for that Twinkle Toes brand thing.
The Twinkle Toes brand? Do I even want to know?
It was Skechers, like, little girls line, and I truly don't remember if the one that they use is one of the ones that I did, because that was 15 years ago, and I didn't really think about it. I just wanted a paycheck.
How dare you want to get paid?
I know, it's terrible.
Artists should be paid in exposure.
Exposure dollars.
There's a meme going around in the hobby community where it's like it's like the house hunters people, and they're making fun of house hunters people because they're like, oh, I'm a artisan bread maker, and my husband is a beekeeper, and our budget is like $4 million.
That's really close to true too.
Yeah.
And the funny, and so I was posting on one of them. I was like, "Oh, I'm an artist, and my husband is also an artist. Budget, we can pay an exposure, right?"
Oh man! Hey, you know what? From someone who offers exposure, because we don't have any type of money coming in. I can't knock it too much, but it's not so much exposure. It's more, it's exposure.
I don't know. Stuff like this, though, is it's fun. It's fun having discussions and talking about stuff that everybody has passions about. Whereas, if somebody's like, hey, can you design my business card for me? And then I'm like, okay, it'll cost this much. And they're like, why can't you do it for free? And I'm like, because I like eating. Like,
right.
Speaking of eating, JT.
I know. I have to cook more.
You need to tell this story.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, from last night.
Yes,
Yes.
last night's story.
Okay, it has some language, so youngins, turn it off now.
What?
Do you know what podcast you're on?
We've been really
yeah,
tame
I
this
guess
time.
Larry's here, so. So okay, real quick backstory. I just got back from Mexico on Wednesday. I went out there with a couple friends, and after any time that I travel to anything, and especially conventions, when I get back, I always go get pho. I get the biggest bowl of pho and make it as spicy as I can possibly make it, and just burn all that con crud and travel crud out. It's gross. So that was my plan last night. So I decided to, go to this place down the road that offers a pho that I can eat, and it's only me. I'm there by myself, and there's another table, a couple tables over that is like 6 baby boomers. And so I get my app, and then their food comes out, and we will call him Gerald because that is a baby boomer name. And Gerald gets something like a chicken fried rice type dish or something like that. And the waiter sits it down in front of him, and this man points at it and looks right at the waiter and goes, "Now, you're sure this is chicken, right? It's not cat?" And I stop eating for a second and wait a couple seconds. I'm like processing, did he, and like no smile on this guy's face. He is not making a joke. And no one says anything. So I chime in, with my shining personality with a big old, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "Are you..." That was the most racist and uncalled for piece of shit comment I have ever heard in my life. I was like, "You need to leave this restaurant right now." There were some other words. So the other words that were said were, I was like, "You and your table of Sun City rejects need to get back on your rascals and go home." So those of you who don't live in Las Vegas, Sun City is like the elderly community here that you can't live in unless you're like 65 or older. So yeah, he starts to say something, and I stop him, and I'm like, "No, you don't get to say anymore. I need you to leave the restaurant. I will work it out with the restaurant to pay for your meal." And he pushes his chair back really aggressively and stands up, and I do the same, and I'm like, "Are you serious right now?" And then so they finally get up and like start leaving and leave their food. Thankfully, he mumbles something, and I don't really care what it was. And as they were leaving, and me in my mouth, I made the comment. I was like, "Ladies, I understand that when you were growing up, you were not supposed to speak your mind, but that time is over, and you should have said something to this asshole." And they all left, and I just wanted pho, guys. I said I wanted it spicy. I didn't mean the atmosphere, so...
Well, you done fucked up.
It was... Oh, Aaron needs to go to Oshak Hennessy's office.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that was my first full night back from a week-long vacation in Mexico.
I saw that, and I was just... I about died this morning.
I mean, like, I can definitely laugh about it now, but like in the time, I was so completely blown away.
Flabbergasted?
Well, I can't say flabbergasted because I popped off so quick. But just
true.
blown away that someone would actually still make a comment about it being dead cat in 2018. Like, where did he get his material from? Like, it was racist as shit and it's not funny, but where did that comment come from in this day and age? Like, I haven't heard somebody say that since the last time I watched, like, A Christmas Story.
That's probably where they got it from.
But it's just crazy to me. Like, I don't know. Like, I've seen, protesters and stuff like that, but I've never seen an interaction like that before. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's not an everyday occurrence, but like that's kind of why I'm like I pre-address some of those issues, I guess, and I joke about that stuff all the time.
Yeah, and then the owner, came out and, said thank you and that I didn't have to do it. And I was like, yes, I did, because that is unacceptable, and you should never feel bad about kicking people out of your restaurant that make comments like that. Just call me, I'll do it for you.
And there's a difference between, anybody who's ever listened to Yeji and I go back and forth, we make gray jokes, jokes that are off color with each other, and we make off color jokes.
Yeah.
But when if I go, hey,
but
Yeji,
you would never say that to a stranger on the street,
right? If Yeji had a chicken dish and I was like, that's some good looking pussy you got there, that's a joke, and that's the type of stuff that you do with your friends. There are certain things that you can get away with your friends that would, in some circles, get your ass beat. And that's just how it always is. But yeah, you don't go up. Okay, me going up to my buddy and going, hey, you want some watermelon? Versus me walking up to a stranger on the street going, hey, you want some watermelon? That's completely different. That's your friend. It'd be like
up with a dead Larry.
That would be how. Yeah, that's how you end up with the dead Larry. And it's one of my friends go, hey, you want a potato? There's certain things that are acceptable within circles of friends, but that are not acceptable outside your circle of friends.
Correct.
And to go, hey, are you sure this is a cat with a straight face?
Yeah, and even then to be in public, like, I don't know, I wouldn't...
Yeah. It was very uncomfortable.
And let me tell you, knowing JT personally, I can tell you he is not a confrontational type of person. So the fact that he felt the need to jump up and chastise someone in the middle of a restaurant and then get to the point of almost getting physical with them just shows, to me at least, a person who knows him, how fucked up the situation was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting first night back.
I've actually only had pho once, and it was from like the McDonald's of pho.
Anderson, Indiana?
No, actually Portland, Maine, but it was very... Yeji saw it. She's like, it's okay, but I've seen better. It tasted good. I want it again, and there's a couple restaurants, we keep forgetting about them until we already go and eat, that serves... Like, there's one place, it's a Thai place, but they have like 3 or 4 different types of cuisine on their menu. And then there's another Japanese-oriented place that also has multiple cuisines. So definitely looking forward one of these days to go get my mouth is watering now, to go get a massive bowl. My biggest complaint about that one place I ate is that they didn't give me enough sprouts. So like if I ever go back there, I'm going to request extra sprouts. I'm one of the weird people who actually loves sprouts.
Oh, no, I love those.
I grew up on alfalfa sprouts.
I eat them like potato chips. Like, and I just have the big bag, and you just,
Yeah, or just the big ass plastic container that doesn't look like a lot until you start pulling out of it, and then you can almost there's almost enough in there to put it like in your entire lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom used to buy that for me all the time. I used to eat it. I love sprouts. My birth mother dated a vegetarian for a while, and so there's certain, like, I'm a carnivore. I love a good T-bone, but there's a lot of stuff that is more on the vegetarian side of things that I really enjoy too because of that. I picked up the taste for it early. So.
Thug Kitchen.
Thug Kitchen is amazing. I actually just gave my the volume 1 to one of my neighbors who he has a couple friends coming over from India who very clearly do not eat beef and that kind of thing. So I was like, here, just use this. I was like, everything in here is good. You cannot go wrong.
This is very true.
Actually, I told originally whenever we were talking about this, we're like, all right, you need this, and JT's like, I have Skype. I was like, or you can just go over Yeji and Clint's house.
That's what I was thinking. Like earlier this morning when we were talking, I was like, I should have just invited JT over.
If the Kickstarter wasn't going on, then because it looks like here in about, my guess is maybe an hour and a half, I'm going to have to update Kickstarter because we're almost to 650,000, which is the next unlock.
Oh, for those who have not heard about this Kickstarter yet, because surprisingly, you guys backed it. I mean, you guys funded it super quick, but the buzz on Facebook has been very minimal. Like, usually on Kickstarters like this, it's being passed around a lot more. And maybe it's because it's more towards the board game crowd and we're not seeing it in the miniatures community, but word has been slightly mum as far as
we've been getting lots of coverage via different websites. So like Kotaku put us up, the Sci-Fi Channel put us up.
Nice.
Shoryuken, something else just popped up today. But we've been getting lots of reach outs after it went up, and especially after it funded, obviously, of people, posting up articles and getting it pushed out that way. I'm actually not sure if Tabletop Gaming News did anything on it. I didn't look.
Oh no, but I'm going to start, of course, once the podcast goes out, I'm going to start putting blurbs out on it as well to make sure people know what's going on. You also have the downside. The quote-unquote downside that you did launch during PAX East weekend. Yes. So there's a lot of people that is there, which is good and bad at the same time because, you get the exposure at PAX East, but there's also people that are at PAX East.
Well, Angry Joe is there, so he went out today, and I guess he's doing some kind of panel there, and part of his panel is talking about the game, so.
Nice.
Are you guys already on Boardgame Geek?
Yes, we are.
How's your scores on that? Because I know a lot of people will make decisions based on that.
I am actually not sure. Let's go find out. We did get posted to Tabletop Gaming News, so that since it's up there, it'll probably start hitting some other things here the next day or so.
Right. Because I'll try to build up a little bit of buzz. I'll try to pay you an exposure.
Exposure box. We have
But you guys have already funded, for people who are wondering. This only launched, yesterday?
Wednesday.
So it launched
morning.
Wednesday.
Yep.
You guys are already funded. It's a 30-day Kickstarter, so not too long, not too short. It's kind of a Goldilocks. I know a lot of people are like, we love short Kickstarters. Some people like to budget, so I don't like short Kickstarters. I understand the reasoning behind short Kickstarters, especially smaller companies. Companies doing shorter Kickstarters. I get that because you don't want to get smashed by the next CMON Kickstarter and have half your pledges canceled because of it.
Right.
I totally get that, but you guys are above and beyond the small Kickstarter range. But you guys have already funded. You've already unlocked 2 stretch goals. You already have you've already unlocked 4 stretch goals. Mm-hmm. You have the next 4 already announced. It looks like there's a good blend of adding new characters and adding new modes. And that is something, I saw a quote, I can't remember which one it was from, I think it might have been Kotaku, talking about one of the most exciting features of the game is not the fact that the miniatures are great, which they are, it was the fact that it wasn't just a single mode of playing, and there was like 7 or 8 different modes and styles of play that you could actually use in this game. And that was something they were really excited about. That's actually something that I'm really excited about. I think that's great, the fact that I'm tired of 1v1, so let's play tag team, or let's do 3v3, or let's do a free-for-all, or let's do XYZ, or let's do a boss battle. You know, that's really cool. That's super exciting. The fact that that just increases the amount of replayability that you guys have. And the fact, like you said, the rules are, you definitely followed the KISS method. Keep it simple, silly. Don't overcomplicate things. You know, especially in your base game, you want to start incorporating some cool shit. Save it for the expansions. Save it for later on down the road. Let's do the Kickstarter, or let's do the Ultra or the Turbo expansion, or the Ultra expansion, which I think you guys already did. But like a Turbo expansion, and where worst case scenario you introduce 2 new characters or 4 new characters, and then so you have these X number of guys that have already been released. There's 2 turbo cards, and you can just put them in the turbo expansion to add to the decks for everyone. It's like a turbo punch or a turbo blah blah blah, you know, or just use the turbos as, you know, a generic thing where it doesn't affect the player's deck.
Yep, and as far as I know, like some of the other releases, it's going to be Universal Tactics and they'll be playable together, but they'll have their own flair to them. Obviously, if and when Mortal Kombat comes to this, it's not going to have a turbo meter. Mortal Kombat doesn't use that.
They do have something. It's not
EX.
a turbo meter. They'll have a turbo meter. Yeah, but they have their own little power-up system.
They have the EX thing, or whatever it's called, where you can use a bar to make a secondary attack or something like that.
Something. In Mortal Kombat 4, I think it was, that they first incorporated the bar, and then in later editions they made it something different where it powered up super moves of some sort. I've kind of fallen off with the entire Mortal Kombat. I'm an old school Mortal Kombat person. That's something they need to put out on the damn phone. Mortal Kombat. I got Street Fighter.
Mortal Kombat 1 or 2.
Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 on the Play Store, and I would drop like $30 on that. Easy.
I'm surprised that they haven't, because they released a new, what was it? Was it King of Fighters? I think it was King of Fighters that was on the mobile game store, and I'm like, this is crazy. Why aren't more people doing this?
I have Street Fighter 4 or 5 on my phone.
Yeah.
Like, legit, full version. Here's my thing, and this is what I don't understand, is you look at, one, why is there no true MMO on a phone? Because I played EverQuest on a potato. With a fucking TurboGrafx 3 in the bitch, with a 16 meg vid card.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even think the processor, no, the processor was still in the megahertz range. And I think my hard drive, I think I had a 3 gigabyte hard drive. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think it was a 450 megahertz processor. 450 megahertz, folks. My phone is stronger. My flip phone was stronger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Why have we not seen like true MMOs on the phone? I mean, they got fucking Fortnite on the phone now. Fortnite. And that's the hottest computer game on the market now. And they have a mobile version. That's the same as the fucking computer version. I don't understand why they haven't started taking a lot of these games. Now, Enix did. Square Enix is smart. Square Enix has taken all of their Final Fantasies and ported them over to the Play Store. They're $15 to $20 a piece. You buy them and you play them, and they're the original game. They're not enhanced. They're not anything. If you liked Final Fantasy VII, you buy it, you play it. And it's Final Fantasy VII with all the ridiculous chobo races and everything else. Same with 10.
Chobo?
Whatever.
Like a cold hobo or something? A chobo? Ay.
Maybe it's like in between a chubby and a hobo, so it's a chobo.
Child hobo?
Child hobo? Chobo?
That's sad.
Way to bring it down. What? Sad trombone sound.
All right, so how many messages am I going to get about how the hell do you don't know what that is? Da 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 da. Chobo.
Yeah.
Ohio man arrested after attacking girlfriend, hitting her in the face with pizza. And if you saw this dude's mugshot,
Does he look like a Ninja Turtle?
kind of actually, he looks like a really excited Michelangelo. Like his mugshot is. An Ohio man was arrested late Tuesday after he attacked his girlfriend, at one point hitting her in the face with a pizza, police said. Kenneth Evans.
Yeah, that is a crazy mugshot. He is very excited.
Right? Allegedly got into an altercation with his 23-year-old girlfriend.
This took a random tangent.
She told police he randomly screamed at her, pushed her head, and hit her in the face with a pizza while she was driving.
That's just a waste of a good pizza.
Must have been a hot pizza, too.
It could have been Papa Murphy's.
Oh, that place is good.
Yes, that place is amazing.
Evans was suspected of being intoxicated with alcohol. Looking at his mugshot, I'm gonna... Dude, this guy looks way too happy to have just been arrested for assault. Assault with pizza? I don't want to be this judge. I wouldn't want to be that judge. I wouldn't want to be that judge.
You'd sit there laughing.
I would.
Because you'd have to ask like what kind of pizza it was.
Was it hot? Was it cold? Did it have pepperoni on it?
Did you suffer any grease burns?
That was a grievous attack. Oh man.
Oh, the puns, but...
Oh, no. Sorry about that tangent. I just happened to look and I was like, the dude's face, like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I could continue on with, like, all the puns, but I know they physically hurt JT, so...
Then we must go on.
They do.
With the punning.
No. No.
We want him to eventually maybe come back on the podcast, so probably not.
I'm actually surprised you haven't been on the podcast before. It's like 91 episodes, and hey, let's bring the guy that I've known, for 17 years. We'll finally get him on the podcast. It was really weird how it goes. I was just like, ooh, something to talk about on the podcast, and JT's like, give me a time. I was like, all right.
Because I knew I'd be sitting at my house in front of my computer. It is now hour 15.
And it's a Friday. You ain't got shit to do.
Yep. Yep.
Well, that and you just came back from Mexico, so you kind of need to de-Mexico.
I am unwinding. I am unwinding, but I have plans tomorrow morning. So.
Oh yeah, you go hiking on the weekends now, don't you?
I do. I've been going out to Red Rock and hiking. We're gonna do. There's a farmers market way, way, way up north. So a couple friends and I are gonna hit that up, and then we might continue on to Mount Charleston and go for a hike.
Have you been over to Gilcrease Orchard?
Yes, I have. I still have one of their half gallons of cider in my freezer. I really like it.
That's
smart.
where I should have put it in.
He freezes his stuff instead of putting it in the fridge and go, oh, hey.
I thought you and the kids were going to drink it. No.
Yes, that place is delicious.
She made apple cider vinegar on accident.
No. Oh, speaking of which, I just went out and bought 3 super large bottles of 91% isopropyl alcohol. The cashier kind of looked at me slightly funny. I had to explain to her I paint with airbrushes and it's for cleaning airbrushes, and the only place I can find 91% is at pharmacies.
Yep.
Because everyone else likes to use... Yeah, everyone... Walmart sells 70%. And the purer you get it, the better. Like, if you could find, like, 99% or even 100% isopropyl, that would be better.
We got our 91% at Walmart.
Really?
Yes.
I went to 2 different Walmarts, and either one of them, they both had 70.
Well,
but no
as
91.
you know, Vegas always has the stronger alcohol.
It does.
Maybe I should drive down to Kentucky to get it next time. I'll end up with like 101% alcohol.
Yeah. You can just buy moonshine at that point.
No, because that would be a waste. I actually had to clarify because I walked into a CVS that has a small liquor section. I was like, I need alcohol. And she looked at me and she started turning towards the liquor section. I was like, no, the disinfectant type. She's like, oh, aisle 7.
Which, JT, have you tried the Grandma's Apple Pie moonshine from Vegas?
No.
It tastes exactly like an apple pie if you get past the burn.
This is a local thing?
Yes.
That sounds like something that I saw in Kentucky, like legitly. Like, I think that's a product of Kentucky. I don't think that's...
There's a distillery in Henderson that produces it. I know the guy that owns the distillery.
Las Vegas Distillery's Grandma's Apple Pie.
Oh.
That's the name of it. It's just called Grandma's Apple Pie.
Yep.
I'm going to... Now I have to go check and see if the one that I saw was made in Vegas or if it was a Kentucky product. I thought it was... The moonshine up here is definitely... Well, like Indiana, surprisingly enough, doesn't have a cap on its liquor content. Like if you go out and buy Everclear, it's like 70% alcohol in Indiana. But if you go over to Ohio, they have a cap on the maximum percentage of alcohol you can have. And their Everclear is diluted. So I know people who drive to Indiana to pick up their spirits because they are usually pure and stronger. Like you can buy like legit moonshine in Indiana. You can't buy it in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, this moonshine, I had 1 sip or like 2 sips of it to try it, and it tore me up.
What?
Now I want
Tore me up. Like inside shredded on the porcelain gods. Yeah.
And it's only $20 for a jar?
Yeah.
They actually put it into their barbecue sauce, too, for one of the guys that do cooking.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's straight legit tastes like you just ate a piece of apple pie.
Which I still want cake.
I have to go find this place.
Now, we were on a hangout a little while yesterday, actually, and someone came up with the idea that everyone brings stuff from their local breweries or distilleries, and like at the end of a con or whatever, everyone just whips all their freaking alcohol out and you just freaking party. I'm like, that's bad. Because if we went there, we'd be lugging like at least $500 worth of alcohol. Because there's a ton of distilleries and other types of breweries out here.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are close to Henderson where there's even more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Henderson is not technically Las Vegas, and Las Vegas has really stupid liquor stuff. Well, brewery stuff, specifically.
Which is why this distillery is in Henderson, not Vegas.
Indiana has more... It's not so much liquor here, it's more microbreweries. We've got a shit... there's several areas of Indiana that's like hipster central. Fucking Ball State with its 700 different little mini bars. Yeah, right? I remember the last time I went to Muncie and actually went out and bar hopped was with... I think I was on leave from the military. You were just getting ready to move to Vegas, and me, you, and Morty, I believe it was, were out in Muncie bar hopping around. You took me to the Fuzzy Peach?
Fickle Peach.
The Fickle Peach. And we the Herat, the Fickle Peach. The Herat's really cool. The
Herat is very cool.
That's a bar, if you ever go to Muncie, you absolutely have to go to.
But don't go to Muncie.
Well, honestly, Muncie is kind of a gaming geek nerd mecca. That and Bloomington for some reason, have just... Well, I mean, the Knights of the Dinner Table are all out of Muncie, and there's a lot of other stuff that's out of Muncie. And then, equally, there's a whole bunch of shit that's down in Bloomington, too. It's probably because they're all college towns.
Yes.
But yeah, we have a lot of microbreweries around here. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them, not so much.
I mean, we have Sin City Brewery, or I think that's the name of it. I haven't tried any of their stuff, but there's tons of microbreweries. There's some like restaurants that are / microbrewery.
Mm-hmm. I go to Big Dogs up north a lot because I'm close to it and it's delicious. Tenaya Creek is really good too, and I think PT's is brewing their own stuff now too. Did you guys know that?
Are they really?
Yeah,
I did not.
Up here near where I'm at, I think is where their brewery is, because I drove past it the other day and they have these gigantic tanks along the side of the building.
Huh. Wait, does the Cornish pasty do anything?
No, I think they get stuff. They don't have anything from more than like a state away, I think it is, minus like the big ones that you have to have.
Yeah.
And then they change their stuff out really, really quickly. Them and the other really good one here in town is Aces and Ales. If you guys haven't been there,
I've heard of it.
It's. I mean, they've got one side of the restaurant is like 36 different taps, 38 different taps, and they're all different breweries.
Huh.
I
don't
really
do beer, so that's what.
Let's see. Like, there's a place called World of Beer right next to one of the Korean restaurants we go to.
I'm going to move into the world of beer.
Maybe we can go. Actually, no, that mainly just have bar food.
So, did you guys go and check out the Adepticon the models that were out there?
Yeah.
So, I seriously wish Cool Mini would step up and realize that there's a problem with advertising at their convention and do something about it. Once again, it was a fucking marketing campaign. As soon as the open vote after the judges, one company in particular was everywhere, and there was, like, you would look at I saw 6 different posts that one company did. And there was like 5 different people involved, but only one of the companies I looked at, they did like 6 different posts, and each one of them had like 60 shares. So this piece got everywhere, and it literally said, "Go vote for this piece."
What?
Yeah, and this is how it's been at Adepticon here recently, and the bad thing is that vote actually weighs in pretty heavily. And the one thing that really pissed me off was one person was showing grays of the miniature as it was being shared without the paint, the gray, the raw resin, the original sculpt, no paint on it, and going, "Hey guys, looky what I did, go vote for it." So it's a painting competition. Why the fuck are you showing raw grays?
Yeah.
Show the painted version. If you have to advertise it everywhere, show the fucking painted version. 2, you get all your fanboys, and you attach on to tons of different high-level painters who also have fanboys to do your work. So people see this and they vote. Because I will tell you, the person who won gold did not deserve gold. They did not. Their model was not the best looking out there. It was, honestly, to me, it was very bland and very flat. It was boring. There was nothing there that... The sculpt is amazing, but honestly, the paint didn't grab my attention. It was very monochromic and very meh. The person who won...
said it was too busy.
And it was also too busy. The sculpt was incredibly busy, and the sculpt also was incredibly two-dimensional. It was up, it was to width, but it didn't show a lot of thickness. It was all stacked on top of it, and also, if you looked at a lot of the models, they did not match the mythos.
Did you see that piece, JT?
I have not.
But then you go and you look at the person who won second, or who took second, or even third, and you're just like, these pieces are so much better painted. Because once again, this is a painting competition. This isn't a fucking sculpting competition. The fact that you're showing your grays off to garner votes for the piece is bullshit.
All
And
right.
and
We're sending you
Sergio
a link, JT.
Sergio Rubio took second, and his piece was absolutely magnificent. I'm not the biggest fan of the style that he used, but the painting on it is absolutely amazing, and it's so colorful, and but it draws your eyes. It's colorful everywhere, but the parts that are supposed to draw your eyes in. And it was just so popping and everything else, and I was like, why? This should have won. This should have won.
Well, we said that about last year's too. We're like, this one should have won, and then it goes and gets a golden demon. So I mean,
But yeah, Sergio straight up should have won. This was I really honestly at this point wish it would get rid of the public vote. I know at that point why even have the crystal brush, because it's only used for a marketing tool.
Or just make the public vote a separate award. Like,
Exactly.
Just give it one. Don't do a first, second, and third.
The
Just
people's
do
choice.
do the people's choice.
Just like the Draconic Awards did. You had the people's
Yep.
choice. And that's how it should be done. And it shouldn't be the big prize comes from the people's vote. Because I'll tell you honestly, the person who won, the sculptor who won had first, third, and first in the last 3 years of the Crystal Brush. And I will say that 3 years ago, the piece deserved it. It was beautifully painted, it was beautifully sculpted, and it was just an overall amazing piece. Last year, I think he deserved his third place vote. Possibly shouldn't have even been top 3. This year, nah, he should have been third place. Should not. I think second and third, both of the models were superior. They just looked better.
okay. So that link we sent you, JT, the first 4 are the one that came in first.
And then this Name of the Wind with the
That's second.
art player. That one's phenomenal.
That came in second.
That's the one that should have won. I saw these in person. That one was so much better. That's what blew my mind. I was like, this model is not that... It doesn't grab my attention. It doesn't evoke any type of feeling. It doesn't do anything. It's just kind of there. Very meh.
Yeah. I'm assuming these were all sitting directly next to each other.
No, they were for the online vote. Okay, so what happens is...
Oh, no, in person. When you saw
no, they were in different parts of the
Okay,
case, because
okay.
I think, if I remember right, they were in multiple categories. Because the crystal brush is taken from every category.
I thought all 3 were diorama.
Well, nowadays it's a bit hard to tell whether it's a single fucking model, a squad, or a diorama, because the lines there are very, very blurred as well. But typically, yeah, dioramas usually do better, but technically they can come from anything for the overall crystal brush. Because what happens is you have individual categories, like you've got the chibis, and like Mark won first with his chibis, so you got first, second, and third. And then overall you have an overall winner too, and that is through the over the entire competition. Now, typically the dioramas score higher, so yeah, they typically draw in more of the big votes. Like, I really doubt we'll ever see a chibi in the next 10 years in the top 3 for Crystal Brush. We can hope, especially now that I'm actually getting into chibis. Oh, speaking of, got to give a shout out to Brian from over at Super Chibi. He sent me one of his busts, and I'm so bad. Yeji, what's the name of this character?
Yeji is AFK. That character...
Yeji is Potty. That character is... It's his female... he's gonna be listening to the podcast going, "It's this, you fucking idiot."
Yeah, right.
But he sent
And
me...
it's actually Midnight Heroes. It's
Midnight.
company.
Midnight.
Yeah.
That's who it is. It's Midnight. That's the name of the character. But yeah, it's Midnight Heroes, part of the Super Chibi line. He actually has one bust out so far, and he's looking at getting some other ones. But he sent me one of the busts, and I spent about 2 hours on it, fucked up the skin, so I got to redo the skin. That's what I get for being cocky and not masking off the face that was already done when I did the hair. Hair's looking pretty cool, though. It's fun. I'm not going to lie. This has actually been a pretty fun bust to paint because it's a chibi. So the head on it is really, really big. And the body that's there is really, really tiny. It's been fun. Only complaint I have, and it has already been addressed and will be fixed, is the base. Because the base is really small on this thing, and its head is really big. And it is
No, there's another issue as well.
There's
Sculpted iris.
Oh, okay. That's depending. The sculpted irises and the sculpted eyebrows. And that's a preference thing. And I do understand where people are coming from, though, about not liking them. Personally, I'm like, whatever. That would be, I would classify that as preference, though most people's preferences are to have blank eyeballs. The mold lines were a little funky. The mold layout could have been done a little bit better to follow the hairlines versus going right over the hair. So that was a little disappointing, but overall, it took me about 2 hours of cleanup. It wasn't perfect. The cleanup wasn't perfect. There's still some like little itty bitty bits in the hair that could be done better. But in about 2 hours in on the painting, but if I would have masked the skin off, I'd almost be done. It's a fun miniature to paint. She's got a lot of attitude, and it just kind of really just kind of paints itself. You start putting paint on it, and it goes, you know what? This model is telling me that this color should be here. It's one of those models that kind of talks to you. And that's how it was when I first saw it. I was like, ooh, Brian, hey, send me one. Yeah, I'll probably be working on it tomorrow. I would be working on it tonight, but I get yelled at when I airbrush on the podcast.
Yeah. Now, I have a couple busts I really need to work on. We actually have 2 copies of Midnight. So Yeji will do her style, I'll do my style.
I'm probably actually going to order a second one because I want to. A lot of people were like, how do you do your skin tones? Because I did them and I just took pictures as I was doing it, and they're like, that makes no sense. And I was like, it really does. It really, really does.
Until this step where I fucked up.
Yeah, until I accidentally oversprayed the hair color, which is teal, all over the skin, which doesn't work. People are like, well, why are you spraying it purple, white, red, and all these other colors? And I was like, because those are the shading underneath the skin. And also I want to do a tattoo on her face, too. Like a teardrop or something. And I want to show my the method that there's a method I'm testing to make it look more realistic like a tattoo. And like an actual tattoo.
Are you gonna... You should make her, like, prison Midnight and just, like, completely tat her out.
Yes. Do it.
I mean, she has Umbra hair, so I mean, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility.
So you'll have like twins. You'll have like the goody two shoes who's like perfect and nice and kind of glowing a little bit, and then you have the punk sister who like is completely tatted, it's dyed hair, and all this other craziness.
Well, I do want to test. I do have something I want to test out as far as tattoos go. That's right. That's what I said, Kitty. Tattoos.
She's complaining.
Yeah, the cat's complaining about us not feeding her yet.
Sounds like the cat is a lot like Yeji.
Most times.
I mean, they do say that your animals take after the owners.
I thought it was you are what you eat.
But I don't eat pussy, so.
But you're Asian.
Wow. Poor JT.
See, a lot of people think that you have a pet. I know the truth. It's an emergency food supply.
It is.
Though I'm talking about Clint, not the cat.
This is why I only live with a roommate, because then I can be like, I don't know where he went.
This is true.
Well, technically, Clint's a roommate.
Legally. At least.
Do your parents
But
know
whatever.
you're dating yet?
No comment.
Do your parents know that you're still dating?
No comment.
I'm going to send an anonymous email to your mother saying she needs to listen to the podcast. Her head would fucking explode.
I'm at the point where I don't care.
You should just leave the paint on the...
No, because that makes it, not able to open more.
We just need to buy more dropper bottles.
Yes, we do.
Need to buy what?
Dropper bottles.
So,
Oh.
we really like P3, but they're still in the stupid flip tops.
Yeah.
So, we need to get some little dropper bottles and transfer paint over one of these days.
U.S. Plastics. They sell dropper bottles. Do not order them from Amazon. Trust me. Order them from an actual manufacturer. Pay a little bit extra. Buy them from a manufacturer. The ones from China suck. Or if you do, make sure to check the reviews. I ordered some 3 milliliter bottles. Yeah, 3 milliliters. Because I wanted to make a travel case. And I was like, well, if I'm out for a couple days, I shouldn't need more than 3 mils of any one color. Because I'm not going to be airbrushing. I'm only going to be brush painting. So I ordered them. For one, they're not 3 milliliter bottles. They're like 5 or 6 milliliter bottles. So they're much, much bigger than what I thought. And they don't seal worth a crap.
I will take a look into that when we finally get fed up enough that we just go, damn it, and order it.
Oh, I'm almost to that point. It's just,
Actually, I would say ask Lynn where she got hers, because she transferred her entire GW paint line over to dropper bottles.
Wow. I bought some, and I just have not. Every time I look at it, I'm like, oh God.
What, the GW paints or the dropper bottles?
No, dropper, like empty droppers to transfer everything over to droppers, and I can't bring myself to do it.
I seriously, to this day, don't understand why companies like Citadel don't offer their paint line in dropper bottles. That is probably the biggest complaint. That costs them sales. Mm-hmm. Like, I know people would be like, I'd use GW, but I only want dropper bottles.
Here's the major question. Why do you have an airline that's still in the flip tops?
Don't. And from everybody I've talked to, it's actually pretty fucking good paint. I don't know. I really don't.
it's so that it can dry out faster and you buy more shit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys not understand the marketing? It's brilliant, actually.
What I don't understand is why anyone would buy miniature paint or an airbrush paint from a miniature company, period. And this goes to Vallejo, too. Because Createx is a thing. And it comes in 4-ounce bottles for like $5. Because if you airbrush a lot, the first thing you will realize, you go through a metric shit ton of paint.
Yeah, but a lot of people like to do the straight colors. Like, oh, I used corn red. Oh, I used sanguine base.
They like the paint by numbers aspect. Yes, I get it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, why did GW change its painting scheme or its name and colors? Vallejo. That's why. Vallejo. Solely because of Vallejo. They wanted to make their paint line proprietary because Vallejo Game Colors had pretty much copied their entire paint line, and they were losing money in sales because people liked dropper bottles. And what would happen is you would start off on Citadel, and then you'd be like, oh, look, I can buy Vallejo for cheaper. They're in dropper bottles, and it's the exact same paint. Or it's exact same colors. Now, when you start on GW paint, you're fucked because there is nothing that matches GW paint.
Actually, about that, I'm noticing a lot of their colors are getting really close to the P3 colors.
Well, rumor has it that Citadel, P3, and Coat d'Arms are all made by the same company.
I can kind of see it. Because if you look at Ink by Darkness and you look at P3's Coal Black, they are damn near the same paint.
Yeah, that's been a rumor for a while. Like, it's almost been confirmed but not confirmed that Coat d'Arms is made by the same company that makes, or P3 is made by the same company that makes Coat d'Arms. And the big rumor was that Citadel was also being made by the same company.
Hey guys, I am going to have to cut out. My Great Dane is letting me know that it is time for her to go outside. She is she is being very insistent.
She's like,
it's about time for us to wrap this up anyway.
Yeah, especially since the other team is recording. All right, so if this podcast isn't like 17 hours long, then there should be another podcast coming out either later this week or possibly the beginning of next week. But JT, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. Definitely, let's not make this the last time, and we don't have to have a Kickstarter to have you back on. Geeky JT is more than fine to have on. But
plus, I mean, we'd appreciate dinner before, getting on the podcast.
Well, when JT is not working on Kickstarter, he can do that before the podcast.
Exactly.
And then we can go and brag about how good dinner was.
Yes. We can do our section from dinner, and then he can just hear how good it is.
I'll go to the other podcast at that point. All right. So everyone, thank you for joining us once again. If you haven't checked it out, go check out the Street Fighter Kickstarter. Seriously, go check it out. It is pretty badass. Thanks for tuning in, and we really appreciate it. We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Models Workshop After Hours, your one-stop podcast for laughs and great painting advice. We come out at least every other week, barring emergencies and holidays, of course, covering a wide variety of hobby topics and basically talking about life in general. When you're not listening to us through your favorite podcatcher, you can find the entire crew hanging out at facebook.com/The Models Workshop. That's all one word smushed together, sharing all the cool things that we find floating around the internet and giving out painting advice. You can also find Larry on Twitter and Instagram at MWAH Podcast, and Yeji and Clint at the same at Snickernack, which is NICKERNACK. If you like what we do, please make sure to drop a quick review on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or whatever service you listen to us on. This helps us out greatly and gets the word of the After Hours out to everyone. Models Workshop is done out of pocket. We have no advertisers because we like to be able to be completely truthful with you. If you want to make a donation to help us out, you can at paypal.me/Models Workshop, or you can do a monthly service at patreon.com/Models Workshop. Once again, thank you for listening. Until next time, grab those brushes, paints, and get to painting.